Good evening and welcome to the April 2021 presentation of Praise Him with Ivory and Brass, coming to you from the sanctuary of First United Methodist Church of Plano, Texas. I'm Mark Thompson. I'll be on the trumpet and flugelhorn this evening, along with our maestro of the keyboards, Mark Lucke, on the piano and organ. This will be the second full concert that Mark and I have presented. The first one, about 8 months ago, in August of 2020, consisted entirely of music that we selected from the sacred genre, some traditional tunes, some newer ones. This concert will be a little different because Mark and I didn't select the music. You did. Church members from First Methodist Plano selected the playlist for this evening. Every year, the youth of the church put on an evening of dinner, auction, and talent show. At the most recent event, one of the auction items was the right to name that tune. The highest 12 bidders on that auction item got to name a song that they would like to hear us perform, and we placed no restrictions on their choices. So the first part of tonight's concert will be secular music, music that you might have heard on top 40 radio stations or on country stations. Then we'll switch gears and present several pieces that we've brought into worship on Sunday morning as preludes or anthems. And we'll conclude with an exciting piece that showcases Mark Lucke's talent on the piano. As I mentioned at the beginning of our first concert, this isn't a worship service. This is a concert. And so toss a bag of popcorn into the microwave, kick off your shoes, settle back, and let us entertain you for a little while. The first tune you may have recognized as Ghost Riders in the Sky, written in 1948 by Stan Jones. The melody is based on When Johnny Comes Marching Home and is set as a cowboy-styled Western song, written when country music and Western music were two very distinctly different genres. It's been recorded by dozens of artists over the years, including Vaughn Monroe, Bing Crosby, Peggy Lee, and perhaps the most familiar to us, Johnny Cash. And it was selected by members of the Western Writers of America as the greatest Western song of all time. We hope you enjoyed our presentation of Ghost Riders in the Sky. Let's continue our journey through the secular side of the concert with a 1977 tune by Peter Gabriel, the original lead singer for the rock group Genesis. Here is Salisbury Hill. Our next tune was written and recorded by rap singer Lil Nas X in 2018. Old Town Road broke new ground in music as it has been labeled country rap. And if you'll look up the video on YouTube by Billy Ray Cyrus, you'll see why country rap is a good description of this tune. It has the distinction of being the song that was the fastest ever to achieve 10 million units sold, or what's known as diamond certification in the recording industry. Here is Old Town Road. The genre of music known as ragtime is known for its syncopated rhythms, and it became popular in the last few years of the 19th century and enjoyed great popularity for about 25 years. Ragtime predated the introduction of jazz and influenced its early development, but it fell out of favor when America became enamored of the sound of the big bands after World War I. And unlike jazz, it mostly faded from view, but not entirely. In 1973, Paul Newman and Robert Redford joined forces in the movie The Sting, one of the most successful motion pictures of all time, winning 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Marvin Hamlish was responsible for the music, and he chose to take us back musically to the appropriate time period when he chose the music of Texarkana native Scott Joplin, the most prolific ragtime composer ever. Although his most famous composition wouldn't become wildly popular and commercially successful until 58 years after his death and the release of The Sting. From the pen of Scott Joplin, here is The Entertainer. So far, we've covered tunes from the 1940s, 1970s, 2010s, 1910s, and now let's turn to the 1960s with a song from Ben E. King, written in 1961. Here is Stand By Me. In the late 1960s and early 70s, the American rock band Creedence Clearwater Revival, led by John Fogerty and his brother Tom, achieved a level of commercial success that surpassed all but a small handful of other rock groups during that brief period. CCR's music is a staple of classic radio stations to this day. From the music of Creedence Clearwater Revival and John Fogerty, here are Down on the Corner, Looking Out My Back Door, and Center Field. How's that popcorn holding out? We're going to take a 5-minute intermission, and when we come back, we'll start the second half of our show featuring some of the church members' favorites from the Sacred Songbook. So we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. That was Mark Lucke on the organ with Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah, arranged by Paul Manns. In 1999, Christian songwriter Tim Hughes wrote a song as a response to how he felt after reading the book of Philippians 2, the second chapter of Paul's epistle to the growing church in Philippi. The song was ranked number 1 on the Christian radio charts for quite some time and has become one of the most widely used worship ballads in Christian churches, festivals, and youth events. From the pen of Tim Hughes, here is Here I Am to Worship. In our concert last August, we selected a few tunes from the 19th century featuring the lyrics of Fannie J. Crosby and the music of William Doane from the latter half of the 1800s. All of the tunes for this concert were composed in the 20th and 21st centuries, except for this next one. Let's go back a bit, but not just a few years and not even several decades. Let's go back 3 centuries. 2 years from now, 2023, will mark the 300th anniversary of one of Johann Sebastian Bach's most enduring compositions. Although it does have words, only the deepest of Bach scholars and aficionados would know them. From the pen of Johann Sebastian Bach nearly 300 years ago, Mark and I are pleased to bring you Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. Over the past 7 decades, gospel music has been blessed by the husband and wife songwriting team of Bill and Gloria Gaither. Together, they've written more than some 700 songs, some of which have become very widely known, and 4 of which are in the United Methodist Hymnal. They're recognizable in almost any Christian church of any denomination. Have you ever heard Something Beautiful? Or how about Jesus, Jesus, there's something about that name, both of which are in the Methodist Hymnal. How about I'm Just a Sinner Saved by Grace? Or one of their most famous songs, He Touched Me. If you would like to hear some music To lift you up out of a really bad day, go to YouTube, look up the Gaither Homecoming videos, and give it a listen. It'll make you feel wonderful. From the musical talents of Bill and Gloria Gaither, with a beautiful arrangement by Marianne Kim, here is Because He Lives. most played song ever on Christian radio in history. Songwriter of the Year, Song of the Year, Song of the Decade, a crossover hit on the Christian, adult contemporary, and country music charts. In 1999, on the death of his father, Christian composer Bart Millard wrote a song whose genesis was a question that his grandmother had asked. I wonder what your father must be seeing and doing in heaven right now. And those words immediately resonated with Bart, and he sat down and wrote the music and the lyrics in what he says was no more than 15 minutes. And he put the pen down and he left it alone. He says that it's the only composition that he's written where he didn't have to change anything. As an answer to his grandmother's question, what must your dad be seeing and doing in heaven right now? Bart Millard wrote, I can only imagine. you have enjoyed tonight's concert, and we're especially glad that you've stayed with us until the finale. When our senior pastor's wife submitted 3 options for her tune selection, I knew instantly which one of the 3 we would play, and also that it would be the finale of this concert. In 1933, Cuban composer Ernesto Lecuona wrote the Andalusian Suite. The 6th movement of that composition was a treatment of a melody written by the American composer and virtuoso pianist Luis Moreau Gottschalk in the mid-1800s, and it reflects the flamenco dance styles from southeastern Spain. In 1961, American composer Bill Holman reimagined the song as a fiery big band showpiece, and American bandleader Stan Kenton included that exhilarating arrangement in his Grammy Award-winning album Adventures in Jazz in 1962. I first became aware of the tune as a member of the SMU Mustang Band in 1980, when one of the most widely respected composers of band music over the past 5 decades, Frank Ticheli, took that fiery Stan Kenton version and adapted it for performance on the marching field. Featuring the talents of Mr. Mark Lucke on the piano, we close tonight's show with Malagueña. Mr. Mark Lucke on the piano. Thank you, everyone, and good night.